Welcome, everybody, to the demo of the bridge built by Warp.Green. We have an excellent panel here today of different community members who brought this to fruition. Everybody knows Yak. He is behind Tibet Swap and a number of other Chia list puzzles that everybody gets to interact with on a daily basis. And a lot of his brains went into the design and build out of the bridge itself, along with a number of other community members that we'll get to here momentarily. We also have Andreas, also known as Acevail throughout the different socials. You guys know him from Mint Garden and his work with NFTs. Definitely a great asset to the community, and he was very crucial to the build out of the actual code, as well as helping to go through and determine which validators should be involved within the bridge itself. And of course, we have DNS, and everybody knows DNS from Dexy. A lot of great things coming in from that team there, and also a crucial player in the build out of the bridge itself. That being said, what is Warp.Green? And Yak, I'm going to turn this one over to you.
Yeah, so I guess the simplest idea to visualize it is you have two blockchains. One is Chia, and the other can be either Ethereum or Base. And they are not sharing any data. So what Warp.Green is at its core, it's a link that allows you to share some data both ways. And the most useful application of this so far are the bridges that allow you to transfer Chia to ETH or Base and transfer assets from ETH to Base to Chia as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Very succinct. And, a lot of people might be thinking this is just for the tokens themselves, but as Yak just mentioned, this is a messaging protocol. So it can definitely be expanded to more than what it's currently doing in the future. If anybody in the audience does have any questions, please use the Zoom Q&A or jump into our Discord under the community feedback channel, and we'll be transferring a lot of those questions from there into the Zoom Q&A for you. Let's dive a little bit further into the bridge itself, the team that was involved, and just kind of a history of how things came about. Yak, can you give us an overview of the project's history and the role of the different people in this call?
Yes, of course. So as a lot of people have probably seen on the roadmap, the original plan was that CNI was going to develop the code for the bridge and then hand it over to the community in the sense of choosing validators and actually running the bridge. In January, they got in touch and I got access to this bridge repo, which I looked through to try to understand the code, Chia Lisp, and so on. This eventually led me to some discussions with the two people here, Dennis and Acevail. And after some discussions, we thought we could get a better version going. So we did a quick proof of concept, just some simple puzzles, contracts to see if this design is going to work, some tests with them, and then we presented that. And everyone involved in the discussion agreed that this is better because of multiple reasons. And we went ahead with it. So in that moment, we kind of started from scratch. The new project had a new architecture, new code, and we entered what I call the design phase. So I was writing most of the code, and we would be meeting regularly to check on architecture, see if there's anything to improve, anything to discuss. And that led to testnet. So after we saw it running on testnet, everything was working. It was time to select validators because that's a very important part of the bridge and the cross-chain messaging protocol. And as you know, from selection processes, you kind of have to make a buzz. So we made that guest post on the Chia blog to let people know that we're looking for validators. And we linked a form. And that's how we started selecting. We'll get more in the selection process a little bit later, I think. Anyway, it was, at the moment, it was still us three and one member representing CNI. And this formed the selection committee that actually chose the validators and controlled this process. And I could talk a lot more about what went on between that phase and mainnet, but the important thing is that we're now live in the beta phase, so we managed to launch a mainnet.
Absolutely, and very exciting for sure. I know there's been some great success with the bridge already and a lot of uses for it. Now, I just want to highlight one part that's really powerful to me, and it's that, CNI was building out their own bridge code. You guys were able to take a look at that and you said, hey, we can do better. We're the community members. We can go ahead and build our own code that does things a little bit differently. So I think it's really powerful that the community, that you three, that other members who contributed some ideas came together to build this out strictly from a community basis. And while there was interaction with CNI, it was, really you that took lead on it. So thank you very much for that. And it was very powerful. Now, I'm sure people want to see this in action. And Yak, you took some time to prep a recorded demo for us. So if you don't mind sharing your screen, and we can go ahead and get that demo live and share it with the rest of the participants. As mentioned, if anybody does have any questions, feel free to use the Zoom Q&A or jump into Discord in the community feedback channel, and you can go ahead and ask any questions in there as well.
All right, I'll start the video right now. Hello everyone, I'm Yak's past self, and I'm going to show you how to use Warp.Green to bridge assets from Base to Chia. So, some words about my setup. I'm using MetaMask as my Ethereum wallet. You can see I have a few ETH to cover blockchain fees, as well as USDC, which I'm going to warp over to Chia. I'm also going to use Gobi as my Chia wallet. So to start, I'll go to Warp.Green and click this bridge interface button at the top right of the page. And now, because this is my first time bridging in this browser, I'm going to close the beta banner and I will connect my wallets. So I'm going to click Connect ETH Wallet, select MetaMask. I'm going to confirm. And now I'm going to connect my Gobi by pressing Connect Chia Wallet, Gobi, approve, and I can close this model. You can see part of both my addresses here, and this is how you know that your wallet is connected. So I will turn my attention to the center of the page, and I'll enter the amount of tokens I want to bridge and ensure that I'm bridging USDC from Base to Chia. As you can see, you can also bridge other tokens, but I'm going to stick with USDC for now. After I press this bridge button, I'm going to confirm the details are correct. So I am sending 4.2 USDC, and I'm going to receive some base Warp USDC on Chia. And you can also cross-check this recipient address with your wallet's address. And I'm going to click Approve Token Spend. And what this is going to do is going to allow the portal contract to withdraw some USDC from your Ethereum account. So I'll click Next and approve the transaction. And now I'm going to wait for a few seconds for the transaction to be confirmed. Now that the contract can take 4.2 USDC from me, I'm going to click the Initiate Bridging button. And this is the transaction that will actually initiate the bridging process. So you can see that I'm actually sending the toll and the tokens. I'll click Confirm. And now we are at step 2. So to prevent reorgs, we need to have a couple of confirmations for our transactions before the validators sign off on them. This is going to take about 15 minutes. So I'll pause the video and return. All right, while we wait for the last few confirmations, I'll share some trivia. Base regularly posts data about confirmed transaction to Ethereum, its corresponding L1. On Ethereum, when a transaction is older than 2 epochs, it's considered final. This is because reorgs bigger than 64 blocks, what we've avoided, would result in validators being slashed. Now, as you can see, the website automatically took me to step 3, and I'll have to upload an offer in order to claim my tokens on Chia. Now, you can manually generate an offer. Keep in mind that it's important to have this exact amount of modules because they are going to be used to mint your warped assets. However, I'm going to just click Generate Offer via Wallet. and I can confirm the offer in Gobi, my wallet. I'll click sign, and now the browser is going to generate a transaction and submit it to the mempool. So what this means is that my transaction is in the mempool and it's shortly going to be confirmed. So I'll see my assets in the wallet. Just as a reference, I already have Warp.USDC from Based in my wallet, and I currently own 28.64. This amount will go up once the transaction is confirmed. Confirmation might take some time. A Chia transaction block is produced roughly every 50 seconds. Depending on the fee that you used for the offer, your transaction might be included in the first block to be generated or after a few blocks. All right, so it looks like my transaction has been confirmed. So now if I look in my Gobi wallet, you can see I have roughly 4.18 more USDC than I used to have. And I can also confirm the transaction by looking at it on two explorers. So I'll just click here and show you how it looks like. You can see the time being just a few seconds ago. If you do not have Warp.USDC in your wallet, you can click this button called Add Wallet, and this will take you to this supported assets page. So you'll want to look for your asset, in this case, Warp.USDC, and you can click this button to have it added to your wallet. I can approve it, but I already have it in my wallet. And this is true for all assets supported by the bridge, both ERC20 and CAT. Now, going back, if it happened that you closed your browser window during bridging, you can always resume. You just have to go to Warp.Green/Explorer. And here you'll see a list of pending messages. So for example, I did this about 30 minutes ago. I tried to transfer about 1 USDC to Chia, but I haven't completed it. So what I can do is click this button that says complete relay. And this will take me right back to step 3, where I can generate an offer and complete my bridging operation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yak. That excellent demo, and I like how you also included the ability to resume those bridging activities and included that inside of the demo. So thank you very much for that. Now, one thing I want to hone in on is that top banner message that you cleared off in that demo video, and it indicated that it is in beta phase, and that's also what you had mentioned here previously. What does beta mean?
Yeah, so a lot of people get confused. I think the naming is a little bit confusing. To be clear, we've had an audit on both sides of the bridge, both EVM and Chia before launching, so we know it's secure. It's a lot than most crypto projects do. During an audit, you have people that are just trying to break your code, looking over it. Now, because this is a very crucial part of the ecosystem, we wanted to be overly cautious. So that's why we are getting a second audit for each part of the bridge. That couldn't be done before launch because of time constraints, but we decided to be transparent about it. I can tell you that the EVM audit is currently ongoing. No vulnerabilities have been found as expected. The second reason is that there's parts of this project. So you have the blockchain part, which has been reviewed, tested very well. I think we have over 300 tests covering just the ETH side. But there's also the front end. And no matter how hard you test during testnet, there are some problems that are going to rise. Small things like the disconnect button not working in some scenario, or well, we've seen last week, the Chia deposits got so big that the script couldn't hold them. And again, that's a simple fix, but we didn't catch that during testing on test. So the important part is we've been audited, do more audits, and wanted to be transparent about it. And here to fix all the bugs that come up with. So don't hesitate to reach out if you encounter anything.
Yeah, thank you very much for the explanation of what that beta means. And it's definitely great to know that there have already been audits done on both sides of the bridge, as well as additional audits for each part coming up. So thank you very much. Now, Andreas, I know that you helped a lot during the design phase. And can you tell us more about the design phase itself?
Of course. So as Jak already mentioned, there was some implementation of a bridge, or at least close to the finished version of one, developed by Chia Network. And we, as a community, got to take a look at that, mainly from the perspective of whether we wanted to be evaluated in that setup. And after inspecting the code, it was very well developed, well done on the Chia Network side, and it had some very sophisticated ways of doing things. So that was very nice to see. However, big thing that we noticed is, or let's say two things. One thing was that there was meant to be a set of validators, and in order to confirm a bridge transaction on Chia, this code assumed that each validator would do a transaction, commit basically the proof that something happened on the other side of the bridge onto the blockchain, and only after a majority of the validators had committed that proof to the blockchain, then the bridge could act and release the tokens, for example. This is something that works well, but it has the drawback that it uses a lot of resources, namely block space, for each bridge transaction. This not only is it a little bit more waiting time, but also just something that the more usage we will see on Chia, the more expensive those transactions will be. And the second part was that the bridging of tokens was tightly integrated in the relaying messages part of the bridge. So basically how the bridging works is you lock some tokens on one side of the bridge, then you mint the same amount on the other side. And if you want to go reverse, then you burn the tokens on one side and unlock the same amount on the other side. In order to do that, you need to relay messages between the blockchains, so basically telling the other side what happened on one side. And this is something that was just integrated into one system. But we thought about it and also looked at designs in other ecosystems and realized that there's an improved design which separates the messaging from the token bridge. So this way, the messaging system just says, basically, I have a smart contract which I can tell, please send this message to this other blockchain at this other address. And then this contract would just take the message and the validators would carry it over to the other side. And then they could receive the message on the other side and then execute some code based on it. And it's very open. So you can basically send any message you want. You could build a messenger, which would be very expensive and not very helpful, but you could. You could also do a lot of other things. And one thing that you can do is token bridging. And this is something that is now separated, at least from a concerns perspective, from the relay messages part. So the validators are only concerned about relaying messages. They just send and receive messages. They don't care where they come from or where they go. They just say, message happened, was sent here, I relayed it over there, and the other way around. And the token bridge is a contract that is not controlled by anybody. It has been deployed and it's immutable. It's not changeable anymore. It's just sitting there and it uses the messaging system that has been deployed by the Warp.Green team and is supported by those validators. And this way, yes, the token bridge works pretty much the same as it was expected before, but it's an open system, and I think we can dive in deeper into that if we wanted to. Anybody can build on top of that. Anybody can use that messaging. It's permissionless. You can anybody can use it, and I think those are two very powerful concepts that we were able to integrate in this system, and at least we feel that it improves the whole operation.
Yeah, thank you very much, and definitely powerful to have that as a foundation for other use cases as well. And I know we have a lot of questions about the validators themselves. So DNS, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn these over to you to start. And can you tell us a little bit more about the validator selection process? And I know one of the questions inside of the Q&A is, will we be learning more about the validators at some point, specifically the ones that are not well-known names in the Chia ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So maybe let me start quick. Obviously, we try to get as many applicants as possible. So we have a big choice of validators. So yeah, luckily Jack was able to get this blog post out on Chia Network, which contained a link for people to sign up. We tried to interview basically every applicant that looked like they put some effort into it. So which was almost everyone. In those interviews, we tried to learn more about their background, about their experience, especially with systems which require a lot of uptime. Also, we wanted to learn more about their experience with hardware wallets, security keys, and so on. An important question was also if they would be able to run the validator even if it's unprofitable, which of course always depends on market conditions. And after we conducted all the interviews, the committee got together and we discussed all the applications and all the data they provided during the interviews, and considered also other factors. For example, are they known in the Chia community, or are they a public identity, or do they have a stake in Chia? Do they have their own project on Chia? All these factors. And I would say if we could have, we would have taken probably everyone, but unfortunately that's not always a good thing, because there's also a drawback with having many validators. It makes it harder to coordinate software upgrades or rekeys. So on the other hand, it's also a bad thing to have just a few validators, because obviously it cannot guarantee the security of the bridge. So it was after some discussion, we decided to end up with a validator set of 11 in a set of 7 out of 11, which means that 7 validators out of the 11 validators need to confirm a transaction for it to go through. For example, it also means that if we want to rekey or if we want to add or remove a validator, 7 out of the existing validators need to confirm the transaction for it to go through.
Thank you. And on that point there, when you're talking about 7 of the validators need to confirm the transaction, we have a question in the Q&A as to how's the performance been? Have we seen any failed bridging due to offline validators, a point where you couldn't reach that 7 essentially?
So luckily, no. I mean, we occasionally see 1 or 2 validators going down, but it's not a big issue. Like I said, 7 validators need to be up, and I'm not aware of any issues right now.
Thank you very much. And I know that we want to get into some stats here, but before we do, if we can just touch base on a few of the other side questions. And Isaiah went ahead and asked a question, is it possible to bridge XCH over to Ethereum?
Yes, it's totally possible. In the current UI, just select XCH as a token. You'll have a networks dropdown. Make sure you select Ethereum there. And the bridging process is very similar to what I've shown in the video. So you can do it right now, and some people actually tried it.
Thank you.
And I want to add to that, and I think we're going to talk about it later too, but if you bridge it to base, there's a way bigger market to actually trade with it. So just keep that in mind, that Ethereum, there's not much going on Warped Chia on Ethereum, but there's a lot going on Warped XCH on base.
Thank you. Thank you. And Yak or Andreas or DNS, each of you have had different aspects involved in this bridge itself. And as we've identified, there's other use cases that could be built out on top of this rather than just the XCH or warped tokens bridging back and forth. Are any of you working on another use case? And Yak, we can go ahead and start with you and go around the rabin here.
So not currently. I'm just making sure everything runs smoothly. But I know some of us might have interesting answers to that.
And DNS, how about yourself? Are you or team working on any additional use cases for the messaging protocol?
Nothing to share right now.
All right. And Andreas, do you want to give us any sneak peeks or any thoughts on something new that might be in the works?
No promises at the moment, but I mean, the NFT bridge is definitely something that comes to mind when thinking about that. There's a lot of interesting aspects that one could integrate in such a bridge, where you could bring NFTs from other ecosystems into Chia, and then basically enforce royalties and give creators all the guarantees that we can with our Chia token standard. And there's even a way of how it could be possible to give the royalties to the ETH wallet. So basically, the creators would automatically control a wallet on the Chia side that they would receive royalties in, and that's automatically without them being involved and aware. This is still depending on whether we do a small tweak to what Chia is able to do. Right now, there's one missing puzzle piece that we would like to get in, but that's still in the design phase.
Thank you. And definitely very exciting and a really cool feature to be able to attribute those royalties back to the original creator, even without the interaction of that original creator. I think that's a really cool use case there and definitely an interesting thing to keep an eye on. And Yak, regarding uptime and different issues that have arisen throughout the bridge itself, we have a question regarding some different wallets had an inability to spend freshly bridged coins. Do you mind diving into that a little bit and kind of explaining what the cause of the issue was and how it was able to be resolved?
So we actually tackled this issue in the design phase. Cats have these things called lineage proofs. So basically, a cat works. A cat has this proof that its parent was also a cat. And when you are minting cats of thin air, that's not true. So you have to run a special program. And we added an extra span, so all wallets would understand it just as cats were being minted. So no changes would be needed to any wallets. Unfortunately, that didn't turn out to be quite true because we were doing this in the same span bundle, so the same block. But those issues were resolved. The assets were there. It was just a matter of parsing. And thankfully, the team behind that wallet did a fantastic job of seeing what the problem is, solving it, and then updating as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. And another great testament for how well the community has come together to bring this bridge into fruition. So very exciting for sure. And I know everybody's excited to get to the numbers now. So Yak, if you don't mind just diving into some of the stats, essentially what's our time since launch, what's total volume, some of the fun numbers. Let's go ahead and get into that realm.
Yeah, well, I'll put that on hold for a minute. We are 2 days away from our 1 month anniversary since we launched. And I'm thinking we've had 3 major surprises. So the first one was that we launched and community members just started testing it and playing with it. And we watched that live, and it was very heartwarming to see it just in the first few days, people just making transfers to see how it works, how it feels, giving us some feedback. Then the second one, there was Tengyang. So I have to admit, due to an oversight on my part, their token was not listed on the first day. But of course, we all know what a great community they are, so we added it. And they've bridged so far, I think, 15% of their total supply. I'm talking about the HOA token, HOA. They've bridged it to Base, ran a lot of experiments, actually created the first pairs. And again, that was a very interesting way of seeing how the activity just kind of skyrocketed as a result of their experiments. And now the latest great surprise was Michael Taylor and his pool on Airdrome. So for those that are not aware, Airdrome is an AMM on Base. I think it's the biggest. And due to Michael Taylor's office efforts, we got whitelisted, and people that provide liquidity there actually get liquidity incentives. So right now, there's over $500,000 locked in Airdrome, the AMM, allowing anyone to buy and sell Chia for USDC at pretty low slippages. And now to get into the stats, I think the original question was about them. I posted the script a few weeks ago that values transactions that go through Warp. Anyone can run it and verify. It only takes into account the tokens that we have in the bridge, not the other unknown messages. We've seen a few of those as well. But so far, in the first month, we've done about $700,000 of volume. And I'd just like to outline that this is a huge number by itself. But when put into perspective, TibetSwap has done that amount in a year. In the whole year since it's been live, we've only seen that volume. The bridge has done it in 1 month. So aside from bringing stablecoins to Chia and other assets from Ethereum and bringing Chia to Ethereum, it has increased the activity and the volume that goes through the blockchain, which we are very happy to see, of course.
Yeah, it's very exciting for sure. Absolutely. And as you say, it was really cool to see the entire community come together and, provide their own input as well as their own efforts to make all of this happen. And as you mentioned, a lot of great community groups have started their own projects, which kind of span off the sides of the bridge, and it's excellent to see those thriving as well. And Dabir, thank you very much. I'll relay that. Dabir wanted to just give a congratulations to all of the amazing work, and I want to second that. Thank you to the team here and for all of the community members that we weren't able to get on the panel today. It's definitely been a great, gargantuan effort to make this happen and make it in a smooth, seamless experience. A little bit on the design side, and Andreas, I didn't know if you wanted to take this one, but is there any work being done to make the bridging a little bit closer to a one-click process?
So this is something that has two sides, like the bridge always has. The question is, do you want to go from Chia to ETH, or do you want to go from some EVM chain to Chia? And I think the most interesting use case of such a one-click system would be to say, I have a Coinbase account and I want Chia on the Chia blockchain. How do I do that? And right now, what you have to do is you have to take your USDC from Coinbase. Let's go the straightforward route first. You move it into a wallet on Base, just the withdrawal basically, and then you use the bridge just as we've seen in the video. This is something. Before you want to do that, you can swap it to wrapped XCH on Base and then bridge that, or you bridge the USDC and swap it on DEXI. That's basically for you to decide. The DEXI swap can be theoretically, or the Tibet swap, so to speak, could be attached to the bridge transaction, no problem. So you could have a UI where you bridge and swap at the same time. The tricky part is that the bridging takes a lot of time, so you probably don't want to bridge at the end of it because the price could change. So you want to bridge, you want to swap before bridging because the swap is probably the quicker action. So let's say you want to do Coinbase USDC to Chia on the Chia blockchain. You could integrate it into one button, which is take my funds in Coinbase, fund this transaction on Base, bridge it, send it through the Uniswap or Aerodrome swap, and then bridge it and build that transaction together. And that's something that we are at least looking into, and Jack maybe has more detail on how far we are in that design phase. But that's basically the things you have to puzzle together. And it would be great if that solution would exist. We definitely agree on that.
Yeah, very exciting for sure. And just one more shout out. We are getting near the top of the hour again here, but if there are any other outstanding questions from those in the audience, please use the Zoom Q&A or post them inside of the Discord community feedback channel, and we'll make sure that those get answered before we wrap up with the bridge team here. Now, that being said, I want to touch on one other aspect you had mentioned, Andreas, and it was the ability for other use cases to be built out. And I know Yak even mentioned at one point that there are some messages that are unrelated to the bridge that you've seen going through the messaging portal already. So what does it really mean when you're looking at the messages? It's separated from the token bridge, but can other developers build on top of this messaging layer?
Yeah, I think I'll take that. So a message is just a data structure that you can get from a blockchain and you have to relay it. So it has a really simple structure. There are some things you need to provide in a certain way and it will get relayed. And those are things like the destination chain and the destination contract that will receive the message, as well as some contents. And these contents are just bytes. So the bridge, for example, is sending the token, information about the token. So be it the tail hash, the asset ID on Chia, or the ERC20 address, the amount, and the receiver. But yeah, these messages can have any kind of data inside them. As long as you pay the tolls, the small amounts that you see with a toll near them on the UI, you can send to any address. And the validators will just pick it up and validate, and you can relay it on the other side. About the messages we've seen, we've actually investigated those, and it turns out that there are actually other ERC20 tokens. So our power is very limited, right? We deployed the bridge, and we kind of have some control in the UI. So we can only display Chia, USDC, and whatever else we deem appropriate. But anyone can call the contract through the blockchain or through a custom front end, which we've also seen, and bridge these tokens. So we've seen some custom ERC20 tokens being bridged from Ethereum to Chia without a problem.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I want to add that if somebody would like to look into how to build on top of this messaging system, all the code of the bridge is open source. So both the bridge itself and the UI. So you could just take a look how it's done. And if you need some pointers, we're in the Chia Discord, or the contacts are on the website.
Perfect. That was going to be the next question, is how they can get in contact with you. So I appreciate that as well. And touching on what you mentioned there, Yak, about other tokens being used, we have a question in the Q&A as to, will wrapped BTC from ETH be officially supported to the bridge to Chia?
That's a good question. We are kind of cautious right now which tokens we list, just so there's still some validators, so we don't want them to appear as an endorsement. We want to ensure maximum safety, not deceiving our users. I don't have an answer for BTC. What I can say is that if you reach out with a very good use case for a token, we'll definitely consider it and talk.
Thank you very much. And we have one last question in the Q&A here, and it's a little bit more on the volume side. So back to those stats there, Yak. Why do you think that there's been so much more volume bridging out of Chia than bridging into Chia?
Yeah, so going back to the short history, the third surprise was the airdrop pool. So the way it works is that if you provide both Chia and USDC as liquidity, you get a small share of the trading fees, but you also get these IRO rewards. Slowest Time Lord has a very great post about it on XCH that today it's a pretty complex mechanism, but there's the important part to understand for this question is that there's some yield coming from somewhere if you provide liquidity. And most of the bridging out, it wasn't actually out of the Chia blockchain. It was just people adding liquidity to that pair. So they were not actually, I don't think they were actually selling their Chia and just forgetting about Chia altogether. They're just taking it to the other blockchain to earn yield, and that might come back later.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm just going to double check here.
And I just checked the website. So the yield is something like 200% over the year. It's probably not going to be, or it's very unclear whether that is sustainable, but at the moment, it pays well. So that's why people go there.
Thank you, absolutely. And another great gargantuan effort by another community group and community member. And I think that's a really cool part of this whole story is the community coming together for these awesome use cases and helping to streamline that onboarding and off-ramp experience within Chia. We've wrapped up all of the community questions, so thank you to those who have asked your questions. It's much appreciated. I'm going to turn it back to the panelists here for final thoughts, and then Yak, to wrap it up, I'll have you provide contact information again. But DNS, let's start with you. What are your final thoughts regarding the bridge as to where it's at now and your vision for where it can be in the future?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm a bit surprised to see more value bridged out of Chia than to bridge in of Chia. I mean, we touched on this topic. Obviously, it's because of the 200% yield, which no one wants to lose out on. But I hope to see more assets bridged into Chia because I believe trading with offer files is just a much better experience than to trading on Aerodrome, for example. And also holding assets on Chia, I think, is much better when we soon see vaults and better things develop. I want to hold my assets on Chia, so I hope to see more assets bridged into it because it just makes so much more sense for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And great points there for sure. I think it's going to be really cool once people start to see the power of offer files and what that means for trading. And Andreas, you mentioned that you are looking into building an NFT bridge and looking into a couple of other potential use cases. What are your thoughts on where the bridge is now and a potential vision for the future here?
So at the moment, I'm just very excited that it's working perfectly and smoothly and is being used so much because using it is, or it being used is also a great test of its performance and everything working. And it's just amazing to see how smoothly this whole project has been developed mostly by Yak, at least on the code side, which is just so professional, great to see. And yeah, that's why it's just great to have, and it's also a door opener for a lot of other use cases, just because you now have a way into Chia that is not through exchanges that nobody in the US can use and things like that. So anybody can bridge into Chia, no gatekeepers, and that's the idea of blockchain. So that's why this is exciting.
Absolutely, bringing out that true decentralized nature, and I can't think of anything more exciting than that. And Yak, we'll turn it back to you for the last recap here. I know you've mentioned that you've been very impressed and excited with how well the bridge is done, but if you don't mind, just one last recap as to your thoughts on how the bridge has come this far and a vision for the future.
Yeah, I think this is just basic infrastructure that we now have available. So I'm looking forward to all the custom apps developed on top. I'm looking forward to seeing projects use stablecoins now that we have them available on Chia. My personal opinion is that liquidity will go to the Chia side eventually. We are just, again, we didn't have this piece of infrastructure and now we have it. So there will be some time before we see those great applications, but they will be there. Yeah, so just thank you everyone for your support and feedback so far, and let's keep it going. And about getting in touch, so if you have no way of contacting me, there's a contact us page on docs.warp.green. If you have any communication channel with me, just send me a message. I'm always trying to respond as fast as possible. And I'm also pretty active on Chia Discord. So try messaging there, even give me a tag. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much as well, Yak, and Andreas and DNS, thank you as well for taking the time to better explain the bridge to us, your roles involved in it, and what it really means for Chia and the ecosystem as a whole. I think it's a very powerful tool that you guys have come together to develop, and it's also truly amazing to see what the community has already done with it within such a short period of time. So very excited to see where it goes in the future, and I know we'll probably check back in with you guys here in a year or so and see where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, but I want to give a shout out for next week. We'll have an event with Rigidity, and he's going to present one of his personal projects, which is a Chia Wallet SDK. So stay tuned for more information on that. It'll be a week from today. Another exciting event coming up. As Yak mentioned, if you want to get in touch with the Warp.Green team, feel free to jump on his website, hit that contact us page, or message him in any of the other channels that you might already have open with him. But thank you all for your time today. I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we'll catch you next week. Have a great day, all.